Sometimes the end of a job doesn't show up as a dramatic moment. Sometimes it shows up quietly. Not because you changed, but because the workplace finally revealed itself. Welcome back to the Dysfunctional Workplace. I'm Kelvin, and thanks for joining us again. Today, in our final episode, we're looking at the last weeks of Abigail's experience and two powerful workplace psychology concepts that explain exactly what happened. The first is psychological contract breach, the unwritten expectations employees rely on: support, clarity, communication, development. When those promises aren't upheld, even if nothing is said out loud, you feel the break. The second is exit point clarity, the moment an employee realizes, I can't grow here. Where leaving becomes clearer than staying, and you're going to hear both of those in Abigail's final weeks. So, Abigail, let's start where we left off last time. Walk me through your final weeks at this company.
Well, coming back after the holidays, I tried to reset. New year, new mindset. I was still showing up, still doing the work, because that's who I am. But if I'm honest, I was still losing faith. My boss's boss, the VP the CEO yelled at during my final interview, reached out for a one-on-one. It surprised me because my actual manager had canceled almost every one-on-one up to that point. So suddenly the VP was stepping in, and it created this strange office space dynamic. Two bosses, but neither providing consistent leadership. And yes, she helped me that day. She connected me with someone internally who showed me a better demo setup. My boss had never responded to this request, or even any email follow-ups from me about it. So I was grateful. But the bigger pattern was impossible to ignore. I had also seen her call out reps in team meetings, publicly correcting them, embarrassing them, and blaming them for numbers that were unrealistic to begin with. And what really struck me was this. The way she treated people in those meetings was the same way the CEO treated her in my final interview. It wasn't random. It was systemic, modeled from the top down. But because she helped me that day, for a moment I thought, okay, maybe things are shifting. But the inconsistency hit again. My actual manager and I still barely spoke. Emails went unanswered, questions sat for days. And when we did meet, it was surface level, fast, checked the box. Nothing tailored to my territory or my development.
And that's psychological contract breach in action. Because you were told, I'm here, reach out anytime, you'll be supported. But the lived experience was the opposite. The unwritten contract cracked, and once it cracks, employees start seeing things clearly.
Then came the national sales meeting, and Kelvin, I heard more from my manager in the few days leading up to that than I had heard from her in an entire month and a half. Suddenly there were invites, texts, plans, which already felt strange. And when I got to the national sales meeting, I started seeing even bigger patterns, mixed messages, confusing guidance, nothing that helped me understand the company or how to succeed in my own region. And then during the executive leadership panel, a rep stood up and asked the CEO, "Who inspires you as a leader?" And the CEO looked at him and said, "I don't get inspired by other people. Next question." Then moved on. And after that panel, everything just made sense. The constant mixed messages, the inconsistency, the way leaders talk to people on our weekly calls, the pressure without support, the silence, all of it. It wasn't just disorganization, it was culture, modeled from the very top.
And when the tone at the top is dismissive, reactive, or unclear, everyone underneath starts copying the behavior. That's how psychological contract breach becomes system-wide. It's not one manager, it's how the whole environment operates.
Exactly. And by the time I got back from that meeting, I had already hit that second concept you mentioned earlier, exit point clarity. I was still doing the work, follow-ups, updating our system, mapping territories. But internally, something had shifted. I wasn't waiting for direction anymore. I wasn't hoping the support would suddenly show up. I was done.
That clarity, that moment where you stop trying to fix the system and start thinking about what you need, that's often the healthiest part of the entire experience.
Once I reached that point, I started interviewing. But I didn't just take the first thing that came along. I interviewed carefully this time. I asked about culture, support, leadership, expectations, all the things I didn't get here. And the company I chose? The professionalism hit me right away. Follow-up was immediate. Communication was clear. Their leadership actually answered questions. It felt like the opposite of everything I had been navigating, and when they offered me the role, I was excited. But I still wanted to leave the right way. Little did I know, my resignation would uncover more dysfunction. So, Monday morning, I emailed my manager to resign, and she called me immediately, which surprised me because she had barely ever called me and had answered emails very sporadically. But today, she called me right after I hit send, and she sounded genuinely shocked. I remember thinking, how could you be surprised? She asked me if there was anything she had done, and I said no. So, she thanked me, said it had been a pleasure, and wished me the best. I told her I would work the final 2 weeks, and I did. So heading into Thursday, I figured we'd just tie up loose ends. Thursday, I joined my standing one-on-one with the VP like normal. She opened the call like nothing had changed, business as usual. I paused and asked, "Hey, did anyone tell you I resigned?" She just stopped, totally confused, said she had no idea.
Wait, seriously? Your manager didn't tell her?
Nope. I was on Zoom and you could see the realization hit her mid-sentence. She froze, and then ended the call abruptly. That alone told me a lot, and it didn't stop there. HR reached out a week later to schedule an exit interview. They weren't even sure when my last day was because neither my boss or the VP told them. This confirmed for me that everything was disconnected. This hadn't been my imagination. I was glad I had another position to go to. And here's the wildest part. Today, there isn't a single person that is still at that company across the entire team. Not one. As for me, I've been in the role I left the dysfunction for, and I've been thriving for the last 4 years.
Wow, Abigail, what a story. And your VP not even knowing you'd resigned, and HR not knowing when your last day was, is a classic psychological contract breach. Because it shows the disconnect wasn't just between you and your manager. It was inside the leadership system itself. When an organization stops communicating, stops aligning, and stops honoring the basic expectations of clarity and respect, that's the breach. And when that happens, the relationship is already over. That's why it's not surprising that today, not one person from the team you joined 4 years ago is still there. Abigail, thank you for walking us through this. And congratulations on finding a role where you feel supported and are thriving. Every person deserves to work in a place that makes them feel that way. And that's where we'll end this 3-part series. If you're listening and you've got a workplace story like Abigail's, let us know by commenting below. We're building a space where real people can make sense of real workplace dynamics using a psychology lens. If this gave you clarity, language, or even a little peace, that's the point. I'm Kelvin with Uncommon Sense Lab. Thanks for being here.